My sisters and brothers, the Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Mark. On leaving the synagogue, Jesus entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Simon's mother-in-law lay sick with a fever. They immediately told him about her. He approached, grasped her hand, and helped her up. Then the fever left her, and she waited on them. When it was evening, after sunset, they brought to him all who were ill or possessed by demons. The whole town was gathered at the door. He cured many who were sick with various diseases, and he drove out many demons, not permitting them to speak because they knew him. Rising very early, before dawn, he left and went off to a deserted place where he prayed. Simon and those who were with him pursued him, and on finding him said, "Everyone is looking for you." He told them, "Let us go on to the nearby villages, that I may preach there also. For this purpose have I come." So he went into their synagogues, preaching and driving out demons throughout the whole of Galilee. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise the Lord, Jesus Christ.
Usually when it's so warm and sunny outside this early during the year, this building gets very warm, and I have 3 layers of clothes on, so I thought I would dress appropriately, wearing sandals and short pants, and all I do is feel this breeze coming out underneath me. I apologize for the cold. It can't be controlled. There's no thermostats. It's somehow like the dorms that you live in. It's controlled by some greater power than us. My first assignment as a priest almost 30 years ago was in Elmhurst, Queens, New York, about 4 subway stops away from Manhattan. A wonderful place to be. Wonderful house. We had a 3-story house with 10 friars. A great place. And not only we had all those friars there, we also had a few guest rooms. And our house was like a revolving door with so many friars who lived throughout the United States who wanted to come and see something or eat something or drink something or hear something in New York. So we had that wonderful privilege of entertaining all the time. One of those friars who came was the founder of our college seminary in Granby, Massachusetts. He was retired and he absolutely loved, like myself, that was his first assignment. He loved to come back and just reminisce. And he actually had taught in school the pastor of the parish, who was my mentor. So we got into a conversation at dinner. I said, "Adam, do you remember Herman from school?" He goes, "Oh my God, he was the worst student." And he started to tell these great stories on and on about Herman, you know. Next to Father Adam at the table was Father Sixtus, who also taught Father Herman in school. So I just, unknowingly, I said, "Father Sixtus, do you remember Father Herman from school?" Without thinking, he goes, "By number." And I said, "What? By number? What does that mean?" All of the seats in this one classroom where this friar taught had numbers 1 through 30. He knew that Herman was number 10. So he knew Herman by his number 10. And my thought was, how impersonal. How impersonal. Similar thought happened this past week when I was dining at the Colonnades Dining Hall. And there, walking in, was a group of 6 students, their lunch on the table. And as I walked by, everybody's head was this way. And their fingers were this. were they doing? Texting, surfing, Googling, looking at pictures, Facebook, whatever, but they certainly weren't paying attention to one another. And I said, wow, is this what we've come to? And I said, how impersonal? Impersonal is probably the direct opposite of what Jesus tries to teach us in the gospel. Jesus' message was one of love and compassion. It was certainly not expeditious and efficient like texting. Here he is in the house of Simon Peter's mother-in-law, and they knew about Jesus. His reputation has spread, and the whole town is at the door. The whole town, imagine, at the door. Jesus started healing. How much more efficient would it have been if Jesus held his hands up and he said, okay, all of you, for a 20-mile radius, you're all healed, you're all cured, all the demons are gone. Wouldn't that have been easier for Jesus? So much easier. No, he was personal. Simon Peter's mother-in-law is the greatest example. There she was, suffering from a fever. What does he do? He goes there. He grasps her hand and lifts her up. And the Hebrew for lifts her up is the same as resurrection. He gave her a new life by lifting her up and healing her fever. And what does she do? Probably felt still a little bit under the weather, maybe suffering from a fever. She immediately started serving their needs. She thought about them rather than herself. And the Greek word that is translated there is the same word that Jesus quotes when he says, I have not come to be served. I've come to serve. Discipleship. Discipleship. Each one of us, my brothers and sisters, has a personal encounter with Jesus awaiting us each and every moment of our lives. In a little while, when you come up to receive the Eucharist, how more personal can you get? Receiving the body and blood of Jesus Christ, the second person of the Trinity. 10 days from now, guess what? Ash Wednesday, the beginning of a 6-week season of Lent. Maybe now is the time to start planning. How am I going to have a greater personal encounter with Jesus? Maybe we need to take away our electronics for a short time. Maybe we need to find, whether we're morning people or evening people, a spot in our day that we can just quiet down, put away the distractions, put away all the things that take us away from focusing on the most important thing in our lives, that personal encounter with Jesus Christ. Maybe it's time you join a Bible study or pick up the Bible yourself and just say, this is my way of finding that personal, touch my heart, up close and personal Jesus Christ experience. 6 weeks in the season of Lent. An opportunity for us all. Yesterday, I had the great privilege of celebrating First Reconciliation at Blessed Sacrament Church with my confreres and a few others. And you don't have the experience of listening to First Penitence, but I'll explain to you what it's like. It's like somebody taking a big, huge bowl of popcorn and throwing it at your face for about 2 hours. It doesn't hurt at all, but it's just the way it is, you know. I had the first student, 8-year-old student, in line. His mother was there, and he's hanging on to her side, wouldn't come near the seat where I was. I had two, I was sitting in a seat right here. Wouldn't come near, and she said, maybe later. Maybe if he sees everybody else doing it, maybe he'll come back. I said, okay. So I had about 20, 30 penitents come by, celebrate the sacrament with them, a wonderful experience at First Penance. All of a sudden, I saw there was light at the end of the tunnel. My line was dwindling, and who did I see but that young little boy? And he was standing by himself. His mother was there. He could have eye contact with her, but he walked up, and instead of sitting in the chair facing me directly, he sat on the edge so he could see his mom. And all of a sudden, when I looked at him, he started crying and sobbing, tears coming down his eyes. I had to think quickly and decide what to do, and I prayed for the inspiration. Thankfully, it was given. I reached out for his hand, and he grabbed my hand, and I whispered in his ear, I remember my first time going to confession, and I was scared to death. And I cried my eyes out, too. All of a sudden, he turned and looked at me, and through questioning, we got to celebrate his first reconciliation. A wonderful experience. My brothers and sisters, Jesus wants us to have that personal encounter each and every day of our lives. Don't let it just be Sunday. Let it be every opportunity in any given day, because I don't know about you, but I need that shot in the arm, that stab in my heart to feel so motivated each and every day to lead a life of selfless service. St. Paul says it, I have to preach the gospel. So do we. And we preach the gospel not by speaking. We preach the gospel by the way we live. By having that personal encounter with Jesus and then offering our brothers and sisters kindness,